Well, this year's Orange Bowl was not one of the prettier games that you'll watch this season. But you know what? If you're an Oregon fan, that doesn't matter because you got the job done. The Oregon Ducks win this thing 23-0. It was a sloppy game. It was a defensive slugfest. I mean, both Baron Morton and Dante Moore just walked off of this field in pain, and I felt. I mean, Dante Moore's hand got crushed in between two players at one point. The Ducks landed one final blow to Baron Morton before this thing was over. It was nasty, and for a guy like myself that appreciates defense, this was a good game. This was a good game, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I enjoyed the defensive chess match, but there were parts of it that were very sloppy. I would say that on both the Texas Tech and the Oregon side, just drives not being completed were frustrating to watch, especially Oregon in the first half. I was watching this, and at several times in the first half, I was feeling like this game was tipping right on that scale of becoming a blowout. Right, like I could feel that Oregon avalanche coming because, and this was costly for Texas Tech. Tech had 2 turnovers on their side of the field, 4 turnovers overall. So, if you want to win a CFP game, you can't afford 4 turnovers. But they had 2 turnovers on their own side of the fields. But Oregon couldn't manage to do anything with them. And that just had me scratching their head. And Oregon also, whether it was penalties or whether it was bad snaps, Oregon kept finding ways to get themselves out of field goal range, especially in the first half. And the commentators said it going into halftime. If you're an Oregon fan or you're Dan Lanning, you're pulling your hair out. But the second half, Oregon was able to get at least something done offensively. And so they had that last second touchdown to bring this thing up to 23-0 instead of 16. I know that some people kind of criticize that because they need to run the score at the time. But you know what? Like Jesse Palmer said in the broadcast, if you have the ball with an opportunity to score, that's what you do. That's a dog mentality. That's what Dan Lanning has. And so I appreciate it. When you have the ball, you've got to score. Let's talk about Texas Tech for a second here. This is becoming a theme here. This is very much becoming a theme. It's even more than a theme. It's almost a truth at this point. These teams that have that first round bye, it is incredibly challenging for them to win playoff games. And Texas Tech is yet another victim of this. You're playing a team like Oregon, who has the Pistons pumping. And yes, did people criticize Oregon for how they performed defensively in the second half against James Madison? Like they took the foot off the gas? Absolutely. But they still had that playing experience a couple weeks ago. Texas Tech hasn't played a game of football in almost a month. So they came into this thing very sloppy, very rusty, and it showed. It felt like Baron Morton was just seeing ghosts out there. He was very shaky, and you got to give Oregon's defensive line credit. Oregon's defensive line was nasty today. It was unbelievable, incredibly physical. They brought the pain to Baron Morton. You could see him, especially after that last lick. You could just see that he was a guy who went through the absolute ringer when it came to getting hit all afternoon, and so. Caps off to Oregon's defensive line. They played incredibly physical. They brought the pain. And just like I talked about with Miami last night, it's that identity. It's those teams. It's that smash mouth football that wins at this time of year. But Baron Morton, like Sam Darnold, I felt like he was seeing ghosts at a lot of times today. They just could not get anything cooking offensively at all, the Red Raiders. 18 for 32, not a very efficient day at all. 137 pass yards. I mean, that was measly, and 2 interceptions. They also couldn't get the run game going either. They only had 78 yards on the ground, so Oregon was great at swallowing up the run game. Reggie Virgil had that one incredibly acrobatic catch, but they could not get McCoy Aiken or Reggie Virgil going at all. I was overall, and I give all the credit in the world to Oregon. They had a great game plan. They didn't play one of their best games today, and they still found a way to get a shutout. And I think that says a lot about this team because they're only going to get better. You know, when they play in the Peach Bowl this week, they're only going to get better because they're building confidence. But I'm incredibly disappointed in Texas Tech today because not only did they not win, they didn't even show up. And this was a winnable game because Oregon was getting opportunities and they weren't capitalizing at all. They were playing incredibly sloppy football in the first half. And Texas Tech could not take the things, they could not take the opportunities that Oregon was giving them. And so if I'm a Tech fan, I'm incredibly disheartened because you've waited forever to get to this moment. It's been a long time coming for Texas Tech to compete for a national championship. And for the record, I picked Texas Tech, and I'll own it. And I had a lot of confidence in them winning. And that's just me talking. I couldn't imagine the amount of confidence I'd have being a Texas Tech fan going into this thing 12-1, Big 12 champions. Absolutely dominated this year. Largest point margin of any team, largest win margin of any team in college football this year. I felt great going into this game. And I also felt great because Oregon is in that weird transition phase between coordinators. So both Tosh Lupoy and Will Stein are leaving, going to their respective new head coaching positions once this run is over. So I felt great about Texas Tech. I felt like they were going to be locked in, and Oregon is going to be dealing with some, internal things because whenever you have great coordinators like Lupoy and Stein leaving, those guys are hard to replace, and those players feel it. Like in the prediction video, I talked about how that impacted the Lions with Ben Johnson leading, with Aaron Glenn leading last year. Those guys felt it in that locker room. And you had a team like the Commanders coming in, and they were locked in. They're focused on the future, and the Lions had those internal dynamics going on. But the difference is they have Dan Campbell as a head coach. These guys have Lanning as a head coach. And you want to talk a motivator of men, Dan Lanning had those boys ready to go today, especially on the defensive side of the ball. But, yeah, absolutely heartbreaking if you're Texas Tech because it was just an absolute no-show. Not able to establish any kind of rhythm on offense whatsoever. I mean, I kept saying I wanted to see Baron Morton go deep a couple times today. But he didn't really have the time because Oregon was in the backfields on every play. He did not have time to let the play develop. They couldn't get the run game going, couldn't get play action going. Oregon's defense just stripped everything away. They stripped every advantage, every tool that Texas Tech could possibly used away. And they made them one-dimensional. And Texas Tech looked like a shell of themselves for that reason today. But, when you watch this game in the second quarter and you're feeling like it could become a blowout, and then it's still 13-0 at one point, if you're Texas Tech, you're like, all we have to do is score a touchdown, and we're back in this thing. They couldn't even manage to get a field goal. They missed field goal in this game. And so just missed opportunity after missed opportunity after missed opportunity. Of course, Baron Morton's interception in the end zone, that was the nail in the coffin. And just making bad reads. I mean, I don't know how he didn't see that corner coming down on that play. It's stuff you hadn't seen out of Baron Morton all year long, just making very uncharacteristic mistakes. That's what led to Texas Tech's loss today. And so I love Texas Tech's trajectory right now. I love where they're heading as a team. I think if you're a Red Raider fan, you have a lot to be optimistic about. This is one of college football's ascending programs. But nonetheless, this one here still very much hurts. But if you're Oregon, now I'm an Alabama fan, and I know when Alabama has a sloppy performance where I feel like we could have won by more. We didn't play our best brand of football, didn't play a complete game. I feel pissed. But you know what? If you're Oregon, you found a way to win a CFP game. Your second straight CFP game. You're in the semifinals. The rearview mirror is smaller than the windshield for a reason. Look ahead, because I think bright things are coming for Oregon. Let's talk about some of Oregon's stats here for a few minutes. Now, I'm going to say Dante Moore was exactly thrilled with his performance by any means today. I mean, made some bad reads. There were a couple plays where he didn't even see guys wide open. I mean, that one play where Sadiq was wide open in the end zone, and he just didn't even see him. That one had me perplexed. Like there were a couple times where he just had wide open guys and didn't see them, and I think that he was trying to do a little bit too much with his body at times, trying to maul guys over. He does not have that body type to be doing that. And so there are some things with Dante Moore that I want to see get refined here in the future. I've been saying this about Dante Moore. I think he's an incredible prospect. I don't think he's ready for the NFL right now. I don't think he's ready for the NFL at all. But I think that if he stays an extra year, if he rides the course with the rest of the CFP, I think that Dante Moore is going to be an incredible quarterback here. Hold on, give me 1 second. I'm trying to pull up Oregon stats here, and my phone is acting up. Give me a quick second because I want to get into this. All right, here we go. Dante Moore went 26 for 33 today, 234 yards, 1 interception. So wasn't anything that blew you away. Like I said, there's some things that I want to see him work on, but his athletic ability is unreal. His ability to create plays out of thin air is unreal. And I think that Dante Moore very much has the opportunity to be the best quarterback in college football next year. I think he's a number 1 overall pick in the making. I mean, I see him. I see a lot of similarities to Jaden Daniels. All right. Yes, the size, but his accuracy, his mobility. I think that if he can speed up the time which he processes reads, I think he can be even better. Locating open guys and hitting them immediately. I think that if he can become a little bit quicker with his processing, Dante Moore is going to be unreal, because we've seen it several times this year, especially the Iowa game. He has that clutch gene. Oregon struggled running the ball a lot, and I'm not surprised, because Texas Tech's front seven is incredible. They were very physical today. Jordan Davison only had 42 rushing yards. Noah Whittington had 31. De'Ara Hill had 13. So not a great day running the ball for Oregon. But Malik Benson had my boy from Alabama had a couple huge catches today. And so I'd love to see that out of him. Again, your most refined performance out of Oregon, but defensively, they look great. I mean, I love Tatum Tuioti, right? I love Bryce Botticher. They both had great performances today. And I also want to shout out Dan Lanning and Will Stein for deciding to go with that fake punt to Tuioti in the second quarter. That was, when you're in a game like this and you need a spark, there's not much going offensively for either team. It's kind of a slop fest. You got to roll the dice. And it definitely gave Oregon a little bit of spark. You gotta have balls, right? You gotta be like Vince McMahon. Your testicles gotta be the size of grapefruits in games like this. And well, it was for Dan Lanning and his hands. I'm not surprised by that one bit, because that's what I expect out of this staff, game in and game out. In these CFP games, I like to take a moment to talk about some guys that I think are pro ready and are going to absolutely kill it at the next level. Well, even though it was a losing match, I want to say that Ben Roberts for Texas Tech was nothing short of incredible today. He was flying around the field. He was a high impact player for the Red Raiders. And so caps up to him. He's going to be fantastic at the next level. I also want to shout David Bailey as well. He was great at disrupting Oregon's offensive flow. Of course, Jacob Rodriguez as well. But for Oregon, like those guys that I just mentioned, Bryce Botcher, Tatum Tuioti, let's talk about Brandon Finney Jr. for a second. He's a freshman corner. had 2 interceptions today. Absolute ball hawk all over the field. He's the guy that ultimately made the difference for this Oregon team. He was your MVP. And so, shout out to him. This Oregon team was locked in. They were completely prepared for this game. Was it perfect? No. But they were locked in, and this is absolutely something to build off of. Oregon seemed like a team that has CFP experience, has been heartbreak in the past. Yes. No, that Ohio State game last year definitely still leaves a foul taste in Oregon fans' mouths. But you know what? They've learned from that. They've now had 2 straight CFP wins since. Texas Tech, this is their first time being here. I didn't know what they were going to look like. I bet on them. I thought it was going to turn out for the Red Raiders, and, well, it didn't. They looked completely lost or completely unprepared for a lot of this game. Very embarrassing performance. Like I said, Bear Morton looked lost. But you know what? If you're Texas Tech, you look at this and say, we have hell of a year. We got here. When we get here next time, we will be ready. We'll be prepared to execute, and we will learn from our mistakes in the past. And I could tell that Oregon took it personally in the second half of that JMU game with people criticizing the defense. They wanted to make a point today, and, well, they did, holding Texas Tech to 0. A big, fat goose egg. To end this, I want to start asking myself, what did I learn from this game? It's something that I want to continue to do with these live instant reactions. Well, for this game, I learned that it doesn't always have to look sexy. A W is a W. As long as you get done, it doesn't have to look sexy. And offense wins games, defense wins championships. Oregon shut out Texas Tech, and that was a difference maker. And I can't wait to see what Alabama or Indiana looks like against Oregon, because this is a team that's had their ups and downs. I've had my questions about Oregon this year, whether it's wide receiver health, whether it's offensive line health. But you know what? Now you have another week to get healthier. The Ducks might be just getting hot at the right time. So, curious to see this. Shout out to my guy, Dominic, Duck Zone 503. Huge win for him, down in the 305. Oregon's first ever Orange Bowl victory, so that's another feather in the Ducks' cap. But let me know what y'all think about this game in the comment section below. Thank y'all for watching, and let's enjoy this Rose Bowl.